What's up, guys? Welcome back to Hardball Talks, the podcast all about sports, life, and the head-on collision that happens between them. I'm Jess Schmittling, Director of Extreme Softball, and each week we dive into stories, challenges, and opportunities we experience living in the sports life arena. Today, I'm joined by Alexa Potts, who is an Extreme alumni and coaches at the high school level at Extreme. We're going to dive into how Alexa got here, where she's focused over the last 10 plus years of her career, and what her experience has been like through a variety of transitions. Welcome, Alexa.
Thank you. Excited to share.
So we, of course, have a lot to unpack when we're talking about 10 plus years, going from playing to coaching in the Extreme. But before we even go down the coaching path, just give us a little bit of an overview of who you are, non-coach side of things.
Yeah, I grew up in the small town of St. Rose, Illinois, which is about 30 miles east of Collinsville. I think we have one four-way stop, so it's quite small. It's actually known for Popeye's Chop House, so if anybody's looking for a nice dinner, everybody knows Popeye's. And then went on to go to modern day high school in Breeze, played 4 years of basketball and softball there, and then graduated in 2011, went on to play at Murray State, softball at Murray State, and graduated from there in 2015. And then now I've been here ever since. So as soon as I graduated June of 2015, I continued and I have supported operations with 226 Sports and train and coach and all the things. So this is year 10, I guess, 2015 to 2025. I now reside in Germantown, Illinois, which is also East Clinton County. I don't know if I'll ever move away. And I am married and have 2 young ones, and we are just getting started into all the fun things of school and sports and all the new adventures. So, 60-second quick hitter on who I am.
Yeah, good. Well, then now let's go into the softball side of things.
Yeah.
So you can give a little bit of an overview through the town of St. Rose and how you ended up here as far as the softball side of things.
Yeah, I think it started just at home. I mean, we're a sports family through and through, and so it was in the backyard. Really, honestly, it was in the backyard with mom and dad. We got involved in t-ball in St. Rose because it's so small. We didn't have a middle school program, which a lot of the bigger schools around here have that. We didn't have that, and so I then eventually at some point ventured into select ball, travel ball, whatever you want to call it, and just played locally, to be honest, just for a local small team. Just a bunch of, moms and dads that came together, brought the kids together, and just provided an experience that way. And then obviously, like I said, played in high school, and eventually took a little bit of a step up to a kind of standoff one team, just a one random team. And then eventually, after that 1 year, made it to Extreme. That would have been my junior year of high school. So played 2 years here for Extreme before I then went on to Murray State.
So we're going to dive into each kind of phase throughout the entire journey there. So we'll start in the backyard and just in the small town and how, each one of those pieces of your journey really shaped you. So let's just start with the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it seems simple, but I mean, mom, dad, hey, you want to go outside and play catch? Hey, you want to go hit balls? Hey, you want to go, the beauty of a small town is you don't have to drive very far to get very many places. So we were, there was a field, 2 fields actually just uptown by school, which was a 5-minute walk for us. And so whether we were I remember being in the front yard. I used to pitch. Everybody used to pitch in softball, right? And so I remember being in the front yard, pitching with mom or dad catching me. And then we'd go up to town and hit balls in the field. It'd be a whole family affair. We'd have, brother shagging and we'd play games. Let's see how long it takes us to catch 10 balls in a row kind of thing. So it really just started at home. That was an important beginner spot for me. And I think that I don't want to undervalue that because that's a big piece for athletes and how they get started in the game is just mom and dad out encouraging them and being supporters. And so that was a huge stepping stone for me.
I can imagine the competition. So did you beat brother all the time in these?
I always won. I don't ever lose. So we are a very competitive family. My competitiveness certainly comes from my family. So there was definitely some competitions for sure.
So then, after that kind of time that you talked about going through the one-off team and being able to participate in that, you started to think about the fact that maybe you'd want to pursue something more. And so talk a little bit about, when that set in and kind of what the next steps were.
Yeah, I think when I got older, obviously, when I joined the kind of local club team, select team, that was a really good experience for me. And my dad was involved in coaching, and I remember it was based as actually the Trenton Thunder, and it was really fun times. And it was based out of Trenton, obviously. And I remember going, to basements and hitting in basements, and it was just kind of the next step up of just backyard ball, just get a crew together who's passionate about playing. And so I did that for a number of years. And then it was kind of at this point where I'm getting into high school, and it's like, okay. And at that time, I didn't know if I was going to play basketball or softball in college. I love basketball. I still do. And I actually played a little bit of travel basketball in my, I think, middle school, junior high days. And so I was still kind of undecided at that point. There was a moment in there, I guess, I don't really remember, but there was a moment where I decided that softball was my thing. And so that's kind of when, I don't remember the exact way that it transitioned out into kind of a standalone one-off team, but I do remember it was not a bad breakup. And I think that it was more so just, okay, like I think I want to do this thing in college. This has been a great stepping stone for me as far as playing for a select team, a group of people that were passionate about playing. We got the fundamentals of the game down, but it became about, okay, I need some more resources to help me on this journey if I really want to do this thing at the next level. And so it was not a bad breakup. It was very healthy. It was no bad blood. It was just, what's the next step for me? And that next step was finding a little bit more of a competitive team that maybe played a little bit better competition and so forth. And so there was a group of really strong athletes that came together for that kind of one. It was just 1 year. It was a neutral coach. And we had a great time, and we enjoyed each other. We had a lot of success. It was just Metro East girls. And I don't remember the reason necessarily why, but that was only a 1 year thing. I know it wasn't bad. But a group of us then somehow connected and decided to kind of take that next step in the journey, which is where Extreme came in.
Yeah. So. Trenton Thunder, Alexa
Classic.
Yeah, we're about the same age, so I do remember playing against Trenton Thunder. We probably played against each other at some point.
Blue and gold. Yeah.
But now, obviously, as we transition into the extreme side of things, and after that standalone team had kind of made its way through your journey there, you then played for Brett, actually, the co-founder here at Extreme. So tell us a little bit about him being your coach in that experience.
Yeah, my first impression of Brett, prior, I remember I didn't try out for anybody else. I don't know why. I do think that I don't know that there was as many teams as there are now. It feels like there's a lot of one-off teams and programs, and I don't feel like there was that many back, 12, 15 years ago. Crazy. But all I remember is Extreme was what I was trying out for, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to try out for them because they were purple. And here we are. My entire wardrobe is purple. And so got over that hump, obviously. But the first impression I had of Brett, I had a tryout, typical. And I remember meeting in the Extreme building, which at the time, that was our home. The Extreme building over in the complex. That's where we did everything. We practiced out there and used that as indoor space. And I remember meeting in the little office up front. Nothing's really changed. And it was me, my mom and dad, and him, and he looked at me in the eye and he said, this is my first time with him. He said, I want you on my team, but we have 3 shortstops. And I was a shortstop, I was one of 3. If you want to be a starter on my team, you're going to have to step up and be a leader. Because I was, believe it or not, I was the quiet kid. And no one believes that now.
Believe not.
That's Brett's fault. It's Brett's fault. No one believes it now, but I was the quiet kid. I didn't speak. I was just hush, super shy. And that was the first impression of Brett. And so it was a moment of I remember playing against Brett before that. And big, scary guy. That was my viewpoint. And so I'm in that meeting. And it's like, it was, I remember it like, whoa, like it was like big-eyed, but it was in a good way of like, okay, like, I think I'm ready for this. I think I'm ready for this challenge. And boy, it was a challenge. I remember losing my voice on the field that fall because I was trying to talk. And I remember him saying, like, I can't hear you, Alexa. Like, what? You got to talk more. I'm like, I am talking. But that was just a part of the growth. And so I once was not a talker, and now people usually have to tell me to stop talking. But that's Brett's fault.
So say, you found your voice. So,
yeah.
So now, you think about the fact that you'd argue that you make the right choice there, coming to Extreme, because then it ultimately led to you being recruited to Murray State. And so tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, it was a journey because, to be quite frank, I was behind. I didn't come. I really had zero recruiting experience. And that was the part of the reason why I needed to take another step, which is to Extreme, because there was some history there and there was some support of the recruiting side. But I was behind. I mean, I was a junior and very raw, athletic as a player, but very raw and no experience at all. My parents, I'm the first child. And so for us, it was a learning curve, and it was fast. So it was kind of twofold. It was one, I had to fine tune my skills because they were very raw, but I needed to clean it up. And then I had to really understand and educate myself, and my family had to educate ourselves on what the recruiting process was, and that was a whole experience in and of itself. And so the actual part of committing, it fell in my lap, to be quite honest. Murray State was not on my radar. Murray State actually came to watch a teammate of mine. So they came to my game, but they were watching a teammate and recognized me. And so now it's actually here at the Tom Madison in Collinsville. I remember on Field 7. And he watched me on a Sunday, reach out to me on a Monday. I went on a visit on Wednesday, committed on Friday, within a week. Now, that's not everybody's story.
And unheard of.
Yes, very unheard of. It's not everybody's story. In the process, it wasn't just that. Mm-hmm. So I got told that I wasn't good enough to play for a program that ended up being the same level as Murray State. I went on multiple visits. I went visits to SLU, McKendree. Eastern was interested in me, Eastern Illinois. And so it wasn't, while the physical process of committing seems easy, there was a lot to get to that point. And I remember sitting with Brett actually at the Chesterfield complex at a little table, and in between games, I think, and that was where we were just hashing it out, trying to figure it out. And so it was a journey, but man, it was a blessing. Like Murray State, it fell in my lap, if you will, but I believe that it was truly a blessing for me, and it was the perfect fit. I knew, when I went on campus, everybody kind of says that, like, how do you know? It was just a feeling I got of being at home. I knew I wanted to get away. I'm a homebody, but I knew I wanted to get away, but be close enough to where I could come home on the weekends. My mom and dad and family can come watch me. And that's exactly what Murray State was, which was about 3 hours away. So it was a journey of just catching up. I was very behind in skills. That's one thing and it was, I don't think in the moment we just didn't know any better, but that's one thing that, if I could, I would have played in the Extreme much longer. Because while my skills did peak at the end of my career, truly, there's this feeling of, if I would have started that process earlier, could I have been even more.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm super grateful, obviously, that I did land here and that I found this home, because it did provide me an incredible experience at Murray. Friends that were in my wedding, and actually that's how I met my husband. And so it was incredibly just a God thing, and of how he just directed me to that place, and I had no idea. So.
And then it started to become this full circle moment, because while you're at Murray, you then start coaching in the Extreme alongside Brett. So did you kind of always know you wanted to be a coach, and what was that like?
I mean, I just grew up in a home of leaders. Mom, dad was a leader at work. Mom was a leader in the school system, and still is. And so I think I had a natural knack for enjoying that. Now, my high school years were huge as far as growth personally. And I talked about the communication side, and that obviously led to better leadership. And that is just invaluable. What I learned, obviously, I'm grateful to have been able to play at a high level, but ultimately I was done playing at 21 years old. And so the lessons I learned in the process and the characteristics that I grew in were instrumental in who I am today. And I think from a coaching perspective, I just had a natural knack for leadership. But I think when I was in college, I was coaching then. And so I would see my coaches on the recruiting trail in the summers obviously I was home from school, and I just enjoyed it. I'm just a competitor. I just enjoyed it. And I actually had a moment where I thought I was going to be a college coach, and ultimately steered to coaching in the club ball world. Just wanted a little bit more variety of impact across more athletes. I think ultimately is what led me to that. So I think it's kind of always been in the blood. My parents were also coaches too, and so it's been in the blood of just leadership and coaching and being around the sport.
Yeah, and so now that we're on that full circle moment there, let's think about just yourself as Coach Alexa. What would you now tell maybe player Alexa if she played for you today?
Yeah, I had to rack my brain on this one. It's been a while, but I think the very first two things that came to mind, one, I would tell myself to consistently work out across the year. And this is more of like what I would have told myself, like I would have worked out earlier. Like I said, I played 4 years of very competitive high school basketball and softball. And so that was one of the lessons I had to learn was when it was basketball season, which typically is November through February, I still had to work on my craft in softball, especially when I decided that I was going to play in college. I couldn't just it's basketball season, I got to stop softball. I had to work, and that took time management. I had to learn. I mean, I live 40 minutes from here. And so I had to coordinate my schedule. I had to be proactive in my planning to have a basketball practice and then come to softball practice and train. But ultimately, I would tell myself to consistently work out year after year and work out earlier, because the value of that is incredible. Just how you perform better when your body is obviously stronger. And then secondly, I think you can say it in a bunch of different ways, and I think I wrote it down here, failure is not the end of the world. And so you can say that as don't be afraid to fail, or fail 100%, or stop chasing excellence, or stop chasing perfectionism. I think for me, that was a big part of my career was I played a little bit scared, and just didn't have quite the full 100% freedom. And so it held me back at times. And so I think now that I'm a little bit more aged, just fine-tuned in my thinking and my mental processes, I think that I would have told myself to allow myself to just play freer and still strive for excellence, but I think not be so worried about what if I make a mistake, what is someone else going to think of me, the kind of people-pleasing side of it. So
if only we could go back and do it all over again.
I always say that. Always said, especially on the basketball side for me. So that would have been, but it is what it is, and it's all part of the journey. It's not a regret. It's just where I was at the time. But that's why I'm passionate about doing what I do now, because of the lessons that I've learned in the process of being an athlete, and then also 10 to 12 years of coaching, is that I'm hopeful to impact an athlete earlier than I had it, right? And so that's why I'm here. I can't go back and live that, obviously, but I can help others maybe be a little bit further along than I was. So
yeah, you've hit on a couple different things as far as just leadership throughout your journey, and just some of those things you just mentioned there around failure and being able to work through that. So when you really think about just everything post being an athlete, what maybe are the standout challenges or celebrations that you would share as a coach?
Cool. It's been a journey. I think I'll start with the challenge side. It's been hard. I think, it's 10 years since I graduated from Murray in 2015. And so we're on year 10, and the world's changed. We went through a pandemic 5 years ago. It's just changed tremendously. And what that has done is that has certainly impacted everybody, coaches included. And And so I went through a little bit of like an identity shift as a coach. And I just had to shift my approach a little bit, as far as I just wasn't getting the buy-in, to be quite honest. And so early on in my coaching, I was young. The transition from player to coach is tough. And while I felt like I always had natural abilities as a coach, it's a little different, as far as you're not a player anymore. Not everybody's like you. And so I think that was something I had to learn early on, is I have to learn that while I could sit and have Brett tell me that to my face, not everybody can. And to be quite honest, it's even more so not everybody can in 2025. And I think that's something I had to learn, was while I could take tough coaching and I could handle that, I that couldn't just be who I was as a coach, because that's what worked for me. And so learning how to adapt to all the athletes and how they learn and what makes them tick, while also staying true to who I am. I'm a competitor. I'm passionate. I have high expectations. I'm high demanding, not in a bad way, but just I want what's best for you. And so when I feel like there's more in the tank, I'm going to try to push to get it out of there. And at times early in my career, that was received not as I intended. And so I had to really look in the mirror and do a little bit of a shift of who I was as a coach to match how other people best received coaching and the changes in society. We can't deny that there has been a shift, and that I couldn't just not look at that. I had to evaluate, again, stay true to who I am and not be a completely different person, but I couldn't avoid what was staring at me in the face. It's like, this is what it is, and this is how I have to adapt. So that was a big challenge. And I think too, like, I mean, we're humans, and especially, as a neutral coach in the program, obviously I have kids, but not at the age that I coach, maybe someday. Yeah. But I mean, we're humans. And so, we have, I feel like I have a pure heart and good intentions, and I strive to provide the best experience. And so when you feel like all those things are happening, pure heart and good experience and extending forth effort, and it's maybe not received as you want it, or it's not desired, or people quit and leave, like, that's hard. That's hard to deal with, because it's just you want it to be for everybody, and you feel like if you're providing the right experience, why wouldn't it be? And so that's a difficult piece. And then I also wrote down, like, when you know the way that the path that they're working down, when you know that what the ending is, and you're trying to help someone along that path, and they're not seeing it, that's hard. And it's not that I know all. It's just that, especially I think a quality of mine is just the ability to see into the future. And I think that a difficult part of coaching is we're doing everything in the best interest of kids, and sometimes it's hard to see in the moment, but it's for the long haul, right? Like, we're coaching these kids not just for their performance tomorrow in their game, not just for this weekend. Like, we're coaching them for life, truly, and we're coaching them so that when they graduate from college, that they can flourish. And that's the benefit that I feel that I receive from being an extreme, is that, yes, I became a better athlete, of course, right? And the tools are even way more now than they were 10 years ago, but it was more so the quality traits that I learned. I learned how to communicate. I learned how to lead. I learned how to time manage. And I think when I coach, I'm coaching with that in mind. I'm coaching to help the kids perform better, of course, but I'm coaching them for the long haul. And so sometimes it's hard to see, right? It's hard for families and coaches, or families and athletes, to see. And as a coach, when they don't see that, and you know what's coming, right? When you're trying to tell an athlete, hey, like, you need to work out in season, and then they don't, it's like, it's not frustrating. I'm not mad at the player, but, like, I just know what's coming, right? I know that they're going to lose some strength. They're going to get back, 4 months from now, and they're going to be like, what the heck? They're going to be discouraged, right? It's like, man, like, I knew that was coming, And so I think that's a hard part of coaching. And then I mean, being the kind of coach that I am, being the hard-nosed coach, the high expectations, high energy competitor, that's not received as well in today's day and age, I don't feel like. So not that hard-nosed coaching can't be successful. I think it's a little bit of a harder dynamic to work around. I think there's some, I have to be a little bit more careful of how I approach situations and how the tone of voice that I use and so forth. So that just comes with the change of society and some of the things that have affected like the pandemic and so forth. So yeah, the challenges are deep. I mean, we're human. We're trying to do our best. We're not perfect, but I think I know that I'm going to grow, that I'm going to get better, be better, and I'm going to learn from my mistakes. So that's the challenge side.
Yeah, I think there's so much there as far as just like the balance of knowing who you are and wanting to stay true to that, while also being able to motivate and advocate for athletes and try to bring out the best version of them. And that balance can be hard when you are seeing into the future of whatever it is that you want. And again, you want what's best for them, but it doesn't always mean that they're going to see it in that way, or the way that it's presented to them. It may be different than they've ever been presented to before. And so, I think there's a really, healthy balance that you've worked through as far as the challenge side of that. And then now we can talk a little bit on the celebration side.
Yeah. And I think just to wrap that up, I think a good way to explain that is that I think in my early years of coaching, I mean, I was young. I mean, I was a 21-year-old coach, and I did coach alongside Brett for a couple of years to kind of learn the ropes, and then took on my own team from there. But I think at first, and this wasn't intentional, but at first it was like, hey, I have to be the coach, and like you have to just like do what I say kind of thing. And it was just like this lines of who am I, who are you, and again, not intentional, but I think just naturally because I was a young coach, I felt like I needed to create this like, you listen to what I say, and like I'll just do my job, you do your job kind of thing. And that's where, again, not intentional, but that's where the switch had to happen, because it's like it came off as we're not on the same team, and it's like, no, I'm on your team. I'm on your team. I'm trying to help you get better. And yes, I am going to challenge you. Yes, I'm going to push you. Yes, I'm going to challenge you on an approach of some sort, but I think it's coming from a place of, I know that you can be better, and I know the person that God created you to be. And so I tried to change my shift into like, yes, I'm not going to change who I am as a demanding coach, but I want you to know that I'm on your team. I'm with you. And so when coach, athlete, family, club can all be on the same page, I feel like that's when we really see kids flourish in this program. So from a celebration side, I think it would be easy to sit here and celebrate the trophies or the victories or whatever. And I do think that the two moments that stand out to me when I thought about this were they did stem around a physical outcome. However, that's not the reason for the celebration. The reason for the celebration is what that moment was for our team. And so one of them was in 2018, and I took a team we ended the year at the PGF Midwest Regional in Peoria. It was an 18U team. We finished third out of 40 teams, and that was one of our best finishes, maybe best finish at that kind of caliber of an event, and at that time. And again, third place is great. I don't even know where that trophy is, to be honest, but it's more so the moment and the memories that was for that group. And they played 11 games in 4 days. I think it was five one-run bracket play ball games. It was like intense. It was like back-to-back-to-back games on one. It was like, I remember 4 years we were like walking to the next field trying to write a lineup. And it was just one of those moments where everything clicked. All the moves that the coaching staff made were the right moves. The players were on it. And it's a moment, again, yes, the trophy was amazing. Yes, the third place, but like the memories and the bonds and the connections and the lessons learned and the ability to work through the adversity in that moment, that's, to me, what I remember the most. And then a similar circumstance recently in the fall of 2023, this was when we're coaching together. And to be honest, it was a tough fall. It was one of the tougher falls. I'm an honest person, so this group knows that. Whoever this group involved, they knew that. But it was a tough fall, and we were just figuring it out. And as coaches, we want our teams to peak at the right time, and so that's what it means to be in it for the long haul. A lot of people are in it for this weekend's win, right, in April, and it's like, yeah, that could be a part of it, but for us, it's like, no, we're trying to peak and play at our best at the end. And so we were in the fall, and this is our last tournament, and we were trying to qualify for Alliance Nationals. And I remember the Friday night we played a first game. It was horrible. We had a kid forget her glove. We were working through some culture things amongst the team. We played horrible. We lost. And I remember walking away like, ooh, this is not good. Like, this is really our last chance to qualify. It just was it's a bad pit. It's a bad pit in your stomach. And as a coach, like you all know, but we came back to the ballpark and we ended up getting a bid. Incredible weekend. We flipped it around, won a bunch of games in a row in bracket play, a couple close ones in there. And it was just, again, same thing. It was all of what surrounded it. Yes, we made it we got our bid or whatever, but it was the fact that like this group had been through a tough start to the fall, but it was the fruit of our labor. Like, we didn't know, it just felt hard. But every weekend we went out, every training session, it led us to that point, and we all came together in a similar situation. We clicked. There was good team camaraderie. When people's numbers were called, they executed, and it was just a cool moment of, we didn't have a great start, but being able to work through that, and it's just an incredible memory. So those are a couple of the ones that stand out to me. There's many more, but it's less about the physical award, the physical trophy, and it's more about what do we learn in the process and what experiences did we gain from that.
Yeah, that was an incredible weekend. So it's nice to sit
roller coaster,
and relive it a little bit.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so as we kind of are on the backside of just your whole 10 years of being here, and you think back through just the overview that you gave at the very beginning, what advice would you say that you have for athletes now that you either coach or will coach in the future?
Yeah, I think, and we can wrap some of these, will include families too, but I think one, use your resources. I think when it comes to, obviously, I coach and train now in Extreme, but I was a receiver of the experience back 10, 12 years ago. And so it was nothing like it is now. We didn't have network training. It was just your traditional coach-led practices and tournaments, and that was pretty much it. We didn't have the facility access. There wasn't even, Rapsodo, Blast Motion, that technology wasn't even a thing, not even when I was in college. And so just the game, it shows the growth of the game, really. So I think use your resources, whether that's a physical, a facility, a tool, but also the people. I think there's a lot of, not just myself, but there's just a lot of experience in these doors at a lot of different levels. And I think people don't use that enough, to be honest. And so I think using your resources, one, engaging in the experience. This experience is unlike any other. It's from a player and a coach, like between all of the opportunities that we have to train, all of the family connected opportunities that we have, the access to facilities. The list goes on. The people that engage in the experience and are just read emails and show up to events and watch their kid train, like the people that engage, those are the people that truly see the most fruit from this experience. And so engage in the experience, show up, put the work in, use what's being provided to you, and then be in it for the long haul. I think this is hard. We live in a world of instant gratification, and we live in a world of win the trophy this weekend, right? We just live in like right now. And while we do need to be present, that's real, we need to be present. I think where Extreme separates ourselves is that it's what I shared on a little bit earlier. We're in this thing for the long haul, because we know that the sport ends, and it's our responsibility to help these athletes go out into their communities wherever they are as the best human beings that God created them to be. And so the platform that we get to do that on is through sports and baseball and softball. But I think when you get caught in the now, you get caught in my team isn't winning, or I'm struggling right now, or whatever. Like, it's a scary place to be because we can just seek, that's where the grass is greener kind of comes in. We can just seek the next best thing to kind of cover up the issue, when it's like we really have to keep the bigger picture, the perspective, and understand, like, what are we going for here? What's the end goal? And so I think it's really just important to remember that and be in it for the long haul, not just for the wins, the losses, be in it for the development of you as an athlete and you as a person, because that really is truly what it is. And then finally would be trust the process. And this is it's a classic, potentially overused phrase, but it just truly is what it is, right? Like, trust the process. It is a process, and at times it looks a little like it's cloudy, right? There's uncertainty, like, why are we doing this? Why are we in this tournament? Why? Like, there's a lot of whys. But I think, one, asking those questions, and then two, just trusting that it's a step for the bigger picture. It's a step for the long haul, and that's hard because trusting that process is a little bit of blind faith. We don't know necessarily what's in the future, but I think that's where, as coaches, like, that's where we're trying to use our experiences, use our knowledge to help kids get to that next step, whatever it is, whether it's middle school, high school, college, post-college, right? Being, parents, whatever that is, having a family, like, that's our goal. And so I think trusting the process is scary, but ultimately there is a reason for everything. There truly is. And so figuring out that reason if you don't know, and just allowing yourself to experience it and not hit the panic button too soon.
Yeah, I was going to say that, as far as there is a reason for everything. So asking those questions is important because you're going to be met with an answer. It doesn't necessarily mean that you may agree with it or understand it or whatever, but at least there's a reason that's helping guide that process so that you can trust it in the long run. So we're gonna do some rapid fire questions here. Okay. She doesn't know what they are, so
well, I don't like this.
We'll see how rapid we can get the answers here. Okay, so let's go with if you had to have every athlete read a book, what book would that be?
You're putting me on the spot.
That's a tough one.
I actually think that's a tough one. I actually think the best book I read was The Mind Gym as an athlete. I actually think, fun fact, this isn't a rapid fire, but I don't think there's enough books for athletes. I actually have a dream of writing a book, so maybe I'll write a book for athletes someday, but I don't think there's enough books specifically for athletes. I've done a lot of research on it, but the best book I've read is called The Mind Gym, so that'd be what I would recommend today.
Okay. Well,
start me off.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Going all the way back to that conversation with Brett, making you speak up.
Exactly.
It won't be short answers, so we'll try for a shorter one here. Best sunflower seed flavor.
Ranch?
Yeah.
I feel like that's classic.
Solid choice. Okay, if you were not a shortstop, what position would you play?
That's tough. Center field.
Not what I was expecting. So
you think I was going to say catcher?
I actually was thinking maybe potentially third base, but
I used to play third base. That's why I didn't say it. I played third base through 8th grade, and then fun fact, this is a great lesson to learn. And when I was going into high school, I had the choice of either continue playing third base and probably not start because we had a lot of seniors and upperclassmen, or shortstop had an open position. So I said, I'm going to try shortstop, and I did not look back ever since then. Love it. So I did not pick third base because I've already played that. It would be center field or catcher. The common theme there is throwing people out. And a catcher I love because I have control of the game, and I like the idea. I got to catch a little bit in college during live ABs in practice when we had catchers out for class, and that was an incredibly fun time too because I knew the hitters and I knew what they didn't like. So that's a tough one. I don't know, catching or center field, because I love a dive. Good dive too.
All right, last one. Go to pitch for the home run.
Inside. Inside all day. Don't throw me low and out. I don't like low and out. Inside all day. I got it.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your experience as an extreme coach and alumni. We cannot wait to hear from more coaches like yourself of why Extreme is their forever home. If you're a coach out there looking to give back to athletes, please reach out to Jess at extremepride.org for more information. Thanks for listening to Hardball Talks, and please subscribe to catch the upcoming episodes.